evening. Health authorities have...
These vehicles may or may not have mechanical...
It will be a trial within a trial.
Louise Neimer at the Ontario...
The city does have a bylaw that requires...
I'm Jeff Ansell. Tonight, Toronto Baha'is fear mass murder in Iran.
On City TV, Channel 57, Cable 7, this is CityPulse Tonight with Gord Martineau.
Good evening. In Toronto tonight, indications that Toronto swimmers may have been exposed to a potential health hazard for weeks. Transcripts in Washington indicate the crew on the ill-fated Air Canada jet may not have reacted quickly enough. And several people arrested as women protest nuclear arms race in New York. First tonight, Toronto beaches are still closed this holiday weekend after tests by the health inspectors revealed high levels of coliform bacteria. But our political specialist Colin Bond discovered that when danger signs were first posted at Sunnyside Beach, July 21st, swimmers had already been exposed to a potential health hazard for weeks.
When the signs went up at Sunnyside, city health officials said then that provincial laboratories had taken 3 weeks to test water samples showing the high coliform bacteria count. At the time, no other explanation was offered for the 3-week delay. I simply presumed it took 3 weeks to test the samples.
I'm not entirely sure 3 weeks is correct.
Well, what is correct, 2 weeks?
Possibly 2 weeks.
So for a 2-week period, the beaches were polluted, but nobody knew about it.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, does that pose a health hazard?
Well, it's hard to say with all of this whether it poses a definite health hazard. In other words, there's no one-to-one correlation. I cannot tell you that if you go swim in that water, you will fall sick. It's not as simple as that. All we can say is that when the pollution reaches a certain level, and it's in some ways an arbitrary cutoff, you have to have some level at which you can make a decision, that it is more likely that you will become ill if you swim in that water.
And that applies to people who swam before the test results were known?
Yes, it would do.
It's my understanding, however, that the laboratory has been reduced in capacity because of cutbacks at the province?
Well, that's been suggested to me. I heard someone make a comment to that effect this past week, and they had severely cut their staff back.
So, in fact, the laboratory, by delaying the test results, could have been exposing Toronto residents to a health hazard?
Well, I suppose you could imply that if the results aren't coming to us as quickly as they possibly should.
The most likely illnesses to be contacted from sewage contamination of our beaches would be eye and ear infections, diarrhea, stomach disorders, and infections of cuts and abrasions. But in rare, extreme cases, it could be salmonella, typhoid, or cholera. Colin Bond, CityPulse Tonight.
And the Toronto beach shutdown is bad news for people trying to make a living during the hot summer months. Business specialist Peter Silverman tells us everyone from windsurfing instructors to ice cream vendors are feeling the pinch.
Can I have a picture? Yes. Can I have 2 hamburgers, 2 French fries, and 2 Cokes, please? No picture?
In normal times, there would be 40 or 50 people waiting to be served at this refreshment stand. Not today. The customers who used to come to this part of Toronto's beaches for a swim have been warned off by the danger of pollution. And the pollution means a paucity of business.
I would say it's gone down by about 40%. And especially at the other location we have near the Sunnyside pool, where we used to get a lot of people to the beach, the number has gone down considerably.
Normally in weather like this spot on the beaches would be crowded with vendors, but today they're not around. And when I had to find one, it was like trying to get a taxi in the rain. On a good day, Guy Wandsworth would sell $150 worth of ice cream. His average now, $30.
The lake's kind of polluted there, right? And it's killing business. The weather's not been too good the past few days down here. So it's usually better. Around 30 degrees, you get a lot of business.
The windsurfing rental and instruction business still seems to be prospering despite the polluted waters. Are windsurfers a hardier breed or less concerned about their health?
I try not to fall in, and if I do, I don't take a deep breath, don't swallow the water.
But you could fall in and swallow all that water.
No, I won't swallow any. I'll just fall in.
Still, as the warnings increase and the extent of the pollution sinks in, the windsurfers, too, might take heed. And that could mean some tough times for windsurfing instructors.
Hope they still got a summer job, and the rest of us do. There's about 9 guys that'll be able to work.
Is any good going to come from all this pollution? Well, the first thing is that Toronto is likely to get around to doing something about its sewer system. And secondly, A lot of new jobs will be created when the millions of dollars are spent in repairing that system. I'm Peter Silverman for CityPulse Tonight.
Bad news tonight for fans of Canada One. The yacht may be forced to pull out of the America's Cup at Newport, Rhode Island because of insufficient funding. Canadian officials in Newport tell us tonight public donations are not meeting original expectations, and problems with the yacht's mast and sails have driven the cost of staying in the America's Cup overboard. Canada One has enough funds to enter the semifinals, but as it stands tonight, chances of the yacht competing in the series are iffy. Peter Gross will have more on the Canada Cup dilemma later on City Pulse Tonight. Earlier this evening, news cameraman Frank Mann dropped by Pier 4 at Harbourfront to ask Toronto voters how they've supported Canada One.
So far, about $200.
And what do you think about the news of them being out of
Well, I didn't realize they were. It's not a very nice thing to hear, but hopefully maybe they can get some more money together at some point.
I contributed probably something in the order of $200 to $500 over fundraising dinners and lunches. I think it's a shame that they have to withdraw, but I have always looked on it really more as a practice run for 2 years hence, and they'll come out of it with a great trial horse and a lot of experience. So I don't look on it as a terrible negative.
Them withdrawing is very disappointing to me. I know that they've tried very, very hard around the harbourfront here to get enough money together. I bought a Toronto T-shirt, plus I donated $10.
We were around here a lot, but we never saw anybody going around for donations at all.
So you didn't donate?
No.
I give about $200, and I think it's very sad that they had to drop out. I think we should help. We went that far anyway. Why not go any further?
More information has been released on the fatal Air Canada flight in which 23 people died. The plane landed engulfed in flames 2 months ago. Robert Hager reports that cockpit transcripts reveal a delay in the crew's actions.
A crucial 19 minutes went by from the first indication of trouble to the time the crew finally decided to make an emergency landing in Cincinnati. That first indication, static from arcing in the plane's electrical system, was picked up by the plane's cockpit voice recorder, but was apparently not audible to pilot Donald Cameron or co-pilot Claude Ouimet. 3 minutes later, they did know something was wrong when in the cockpit 3 circuit breakers or fuses for the plane's rear lavatory popped out, and efforts to reset them didn't work. But the crew eating dinner at the time didn't think it was serious. On the voice recorder, pilot Cameron is heard to say somebody must have pushed a rag down the old toilet, jammed it, and it overheated. The crew wasn't alarmed until a flight attendant told them, "Excuse me, there's a fire in the washroom at the back." Even then, another 5 minutes went by as the crew tried to handle the problem without interrupting the flight. A flight attendant sprayed an extinguisher into the lavatory and reported it seems to be subsiding. Co-pilot Ouimet went back, found smoke creeping forward, returned to the cockpit to get goggles, and then went back again before he finally told the pilot, "I don't like what's happening. I think we better go down, okay?" Moments later, the voice recorder failed too, and there's no further record of conversation. But it took another agonizing 12 minutes to get down and reach Cincinnati Airport, where 23 died.
Investigators say it's not unusual for circuit breakers to trip and may not be unusual to leave the problem for the next stop. But had this crew realized the seriousness of the situation sooner, some nearer landing place might have been found and precious minutes saved. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
And Air Canada officials now say failed electronic fuel gauges paralyzed the fuel alarm system on the Boeing 767, forced to make an emergency landing on July 23rd. The faulty gauges had forced ground crews in Montreal and Ottawa to take manual fuel tank readings. The crews miscalculated the readings, leaving the plane with half of the fuel it should have had on board. Air Canada now has decreed no plane can take off unless all fuel systems are working. Scarborough family's holiday weekend came to an abrupt end today, and they found their house had been torched. More tonight from Lauren Honickman.
It's all right. Darlene and Ben Lynch and their 3 children were at a cottage this weekend. They say it was the first time they had been away from their home in 2 years.
And we figured this is a weekend for the family to get away, so we went away and come back to this disaster. Oh, I didn't believe it at first, right? Because who would do something like this?
It was first believed a bomb might have exploded inside, but investigation so far has shown that the fire was started in at least 2 separate areas. We saw lying on the ground a burnt aerosol can. Could that have anything to do with this fire?
No, sir, I don't think so. That's just a normal household commodity. We have no real thing that would cause us to suspect anybody in particular, but apparently there has been some disagreement with kids over the past.
Damage estimates tonight stand at $53,000. Nothing left inside the home they lived in for 4 years. Ben is still managing to be optimistic.
It's still up. You been up there? Should be able to be salvageable. It's not down on the ground, so it can be fixed.
Today, friends and family came by to help out. Lynches say they basically lost everything they worked so hard to get. Neighbors came by, they gave them a little money, keep them going for a while. Ben and Darlene and the kids will be staying at Ben's brother until they get things in order. Meantime, the fire marshal's office is still investigating. Lauren Honickman in Scarborough, CityPulse Tonight.
A warrant is out tonight for the arrest of 29-year-old Bruce David Douglas. The Mississauga man is charged with trying to murder Tina Sardellis. The teenage girl was picked up by a boater last week at one of the island beaches. When she refused to have sex with the man, he threw her overboard. Tonight, Toronto Baha'is told Jeff Ansell stories of mass murder in Iran, where 156 Baha'is have been hanged or shot since the Iran Revolution. This simply because of their religious beliefs. Iran officials deny the anti-Baha'i crackdown, but local members of the faith say that they want the truth to be known.
They are attempting to cover up a century-and-a-half-long determined campaign on the part of the clergy to exterminate the Baha'i faith in that country. And they use all manner of charges to politicize, to make it sound valid in the West.
We'll have more on the subject a bit later in City Pulse Tonight. Lots of people heading back to town tonight following the holiday weekend. With the details on the traffic situation, our chief assignment editor, Glenn Cole.
Thanks very much, Gordon. If you're waiting for the folks to get home from cottage country, this is how the traffic situation stands at the moment. Constable Bob Hooper at the OPP News Bureau tells me the traffic is heavy on all incoming highways. The traffic accident on the southbound 400 to Major Mackenzie is really slowing things down there, but otherwise, accidents are not a problem for a change. And City Pulse assignment editor John Thornton has just checked the eastern area for us, and the westbound 401 very heavy right from Brock Road. Pockets of rain in the Pickering, Ajax area, plus the outer fringes of Scarborough. And northeastern Metro and York region is causing some slow-down problems there. And how much more rain are we expecting? Well, we have the answer live not far from Queen Street and weatherman Brian Hill.
Wow, Glenn, all I can say is things are pretty hot out in the streets of Toronto tonight. Caravana being celebrated on Queen Street. Earlier today, it was very wet just about every place but Toronto. A twister sighted south of us. All kinds of storm damage over in the London area, and I'll be back to tell you about that later on the City Weather Watch. And Jeannie Becker will be back here later in entertainment to tell you more about the Caravana celebrations going on in Toronto tonight. Now back to Gord inside.
Thank you, Marion. Weathermen like Brian Hill are in the good books of Southern Ontario farmers tonight. Carolyn Joe tells us the weekend showers saved the province's farmers from disaster.
When we come back on Sunday night, practically the whole field had tassels, and it's growing a good 6 inches.
6 inches just in the last 4 days of rain.
Right.
The sight of rain-spattered leaves is a far cry from what this farm looked like when JoJo was here. Back then, crops were burning in the heat and soil was parched and cracked. Farmer Jack Hambley feared he could lose more than $100 an acre in crop losses. But on Friday night, it started to rain.
I would think you'd have to call a $1 million rain. You know, you just feel so good after so much dry weather. You just, it's just like somebody handing you something.
Although some of Hambley's crop yields are down, the rain came just in time to save him from disaster.
Our second crop hay was down about 30%. But with this rain, I would think we'll have got a good chance of a pretty good third crop, which will help our loss on our second crop.
Across the street, another farmer says his grain crop is down, but the hay is looking good.
It's definitely going to make the plowing easier after the crops are off, and as I said before, like it's going to, in my case, be beneficial for the second cut of hay.
The farmers aren't even worried about another drought. They say their crops are well developed and have all the rain they need. Carolyn Joe, City Pulse Tonight.
Toronto Mayor Art Eggleton celebrated this Simcoe Day in style. He paid a visit to Old Fort York and was greeted by the fife and drums of the Queen's York Rangers. The mayor was met by Lieutenant Governor John Graves Simcoe and his wife. before checking out military demonstrations by the Fort York Guard. And a bit later on, the Fort York Guard paid its own visit to Nathan Phillips Square, staging a 19th century battle drill and striking up the band. That was enough to convince one gentleman to break in a new pair of shoes. After this, U.S. envoy Richard Stone meets a Salvadoran guerrilla leader and is off to Nicaragua. And 60 arrested as thousands of women protest nuclear arms in New York State. U.S. President Reagan's special envoy to Central America, Richard Stone, is on the move again tonight. This weekend, he met with a top El Salvadoran guerrilla leader. He's now in Nicaragua to discuss a plan for peace in that country. Robin Lloyd is watching.
Ambassador Stone left Colombia for Nicaragua this afternoon in high spirits, telling reporters he was pleased with the talks so far. This morning, the U.S. delegation met with Colombia's president, Belisario Betancourt, who has acted as a go-between for Stone and the Salvadoran left. After weeks of diplomatic maneuvering, Stone finally met with a leader of El Salvador's left-wing rebels for the first time yesterday morning. After 2 hours of talks, the mood appeared to be jovial. There were smiles all around. The Colombian president made the only remarks to the press, calling this initial dialogue a good beginning. Stone then went on to El Salvador for talks with Salvadoran officials. Again, the talks were called productive, but there were no details. The guerrilla leader, Rubén Zamora, later said in an interview that he also was optimistic, but warned that the United States could jeopardize future talks if it continues to build up its naval fleet around Central America.
Because one thing is very clear for us. We are not going to make concessions just because the U.S. government is putting a fleet there.
Zamora indicated that he thought there would be future talks soon between Salvadoran government officials, the United States, and the guerrillas. But leftist sources have told NBC News that among the guerrilla forces fighting inside El Salvador, there may be less optimism. These sources indicate that the military faction of the left is angry with Zamora for talking with Stone. Many of them do not support this latest effort to start a dialogue. It's too early to say yet whether this first meeting between Ambassador Stone and the Salvadoran left will lead to anything. Still, the meeting did take place, and both sides left Bogota optimistic about the possibility of future talks. Robin Lloyd, NBC News, Bogota, Colombia.
More than 60 people are under arrest tonight as more than 2,000 women protest the nuclear arms race at an Army depot in central New York State. Earlier, there was a counter-demonstration by 200 local residents. Norma Quarles is there.
The women came to Seneca County, New York, from across the United States and as far away as Australia to demonstrate against nuclear weapons.
We are here to support the nuclear disarmament movement in the U.S., and in particular to protest against the Seneca Army Depot, where we strongly believe the Pershing II is stored.
The women have been gathering for weeks. Most are staying at a farm that women's peace groups bought and now call a peace camp. The women marched to the Seneca Army Depot, the place they claim is an arsenal for nuclear weapons. The Army neither confirms nor denies this. Waiting for the marchers, hundreds of residents. They view the Army base as a major employer, a good neighbor. They don't want the women protesters in their community.
They've caused a lot of problems. They're using our taxpayers' dollars. They're not from Seneca County. A lot of them aren't from New York State. And they should just go home.
Because of the hostility toward the women marchers, hundreds of extra military police, riot police, and sheriff's deputies were on hand to prevent any confrontation between townspeople and the peace marchers. The women marchers had promised to engage in civil disobedience and expected to be arrested. Norma Quarles, NBC News, Seneca County, New York.
Solidarity leader Lech Wałęsa returned to work today at the Lenin shipyard in Gdansk, refusing to comment on plans to mark the third anniversary of the outlawed trade union August 31st. John Cochran tells us tonight the Polish government has taken another major step by lifting restrictions on travel.
Poles are taking their summer vacations in Poland this year. Many of them come here to the Baltic coast, which Poles call the Northern Riviera. The lifting of martial law came too late for most Poles to get permission to travel outside the communist bloc this summer. The government keeps the passports of all Polish citizens, and any Pole wishing to travel abroad has to ask for his or her passport. With the lifting of martial law, the government says it will now give passports to any Pole who receives an invitation to visit from a foreign friend. There are several hundred Polish families who've put off any thought of a summer vacation. Those are the families of political prisoners still awaiting release under the new amnesty law. But other Poles are trying to enjoy what is left of the unpredictable Polish summer. Sometimes the weather is good, sometimes not. But Poles don't really have much choice about where to go. By the time the Polish bureaucracy approves requests for foreign travel, summer will be gone. John Cochran, NBC News, on Poland's Baltic coast.
CityPulse Tonight continues in a moment.
Dressed up like $1 million trooper.
I'm Jeannie Becker. Tonight, taco. Old music with new appeal.
Toronto came close to tornado action today. The details in 2 minutes.
The weather, hot and humid. Here's Brian Hill with the forecast.
Thanks, Gord. Hi, everybody. Welcome home. If you've been away and out of town because of the holiday weekend, and if you've been in Toronto, you've been lucky because just about every place else got hit with something pretty severe as far as weather is concerned. The jet stream bending down to the south, ushering a colder push of air over top of us. And look at this cloud right there. That's showers and thunderstorms that dropped a funnel cloud down over Buffalo. This should be the last of our rain, though, because we have this great big dome of high pressure here, and a heat wave is headed for Toronto as this business gets pumped up toward us. Not only that, but a late week shower can be expected because of this system that eventually is going to drift in over top of us in southern Ontario. You have that to look forward to, and you can see the patchy nature of the cloud over top of us. That means that the showers were very isolated. They came down heavy, but only in very small areas, and so the chances are you didn't get wet, but boy, if you were one of the places that got hit with some showeriness, some people just about drowned. London especially had some flooding. Oh, they had trees tumbling over on trailer parks, lots of problems. The bulk of it's to the south. Let me show you on computer graphics just how close it came. Right now, tonight, it's down here in New York State and heading to the east and to the south, the cold front along with it. But you can see very small little pockets of powerful thunderstorms nonetheless. That's the way it is this evening, and by tomorrow, you'll scarcely have known there was any kind of precipitation around at all. It should be clear as a bell tomorrow morning. We think it's going to stay for quite a long time, not only through the afternoon, but for the bulk of this upcoming week. As you go back to work, it should be very nice, but warm. No changes until about Friday morning as another cold front pushes through Toronto, and you can see these pockets of dark rain-bearing clouds are going to be sweeping through our area then. Between now and then, beautiful. Okay, good moderate winds blowing in from the west during this evening. You can see the patchiness of the shower activity that scooted across mostly the top part of the city. Tomorrow morning, it's going to be clear. The winds are going to be lighting in from the northwest. If you're taking this week off, you want to do something on the water, not bad tomorrow. The next couple of days are on the video skyline. In fact, 5 days worth of weather I have for you right here. And pay attention to the temperatures because Toronto, we're getting hot all over again. Sunny skies to start the day tomorrow. Sunglasses as you drive into work at 8 a.m. 21 degrees, not too bad, and it won't get too terribly warm tomorrow in town, only climbing up to about 28 under mainly sunny skies. But watch as the heat wave hits us once again, because not only on Wednesday will it be 30, but it's also going to be humid along with that. Mainly sunny skies right through to Thursday, high 33. Oh, that's hot stuff. And Friday, a mix of cloud, sun, and perhaps a late shower, a high 30. Here's the sneak peek of this upcoming weekend. Looks like it's going to be a mix of cloud and sun on Saturday and a high 28 degrees. Well, right now on the streets of Toronto, there's a lot of rejoicing going on, and this is the way it looks via the Live Eye, which is just across the street from City TV at the Caravana celebrations. And you can see the present temp is 21 or 70. A lot hotter than that if you're out there with the music. And the winds are coming in from the northwest at 17 kilometers per hour right now. The barometric pressure, 101.4. Rising, the relative humidity is up some, and it's going to even get higher than that over the next week. The humidity builds into Toronto right now at 66%. For sleeping tonight, so you can get up and go to work tomorrow, it's not going to be too bad. As a matter of fact, you'll have a lot of cloud in the sky, and that's going to be a factor that's going to help hold in some heat. Most of the shower risk is past for metropolitan Toronto. If you're out in the burbs, you might have a slight risk of rain. 18 for sleeping is nice. Tomorrow morning, 21, sunshine as you get up to work. It looks like it's been a wonderful summer up till now, and it's still going to keep coming. That's the City Weather Watch, Gord.
And, Brian, we were thankful that the rains didn't come down and wreck the Caravana festivities going on tonight.
Oh, it was so close. And Ontario places fireworks scheduled for tonight, and all that had to happen was to have the thunderstorms just about 10 or 20 miles over in one direction, and then it would have been a wet night for everybody.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay.
Time to find out what's happening in the city. Here's Jeannie Becker.
Thank you, Gord. Caravana wraps up tonight. As part of the weekend's festivities, reggae superstar Dennis Brown performed in a reggae fun splash at Roy Thompson Hall. Shown here in rehearsal at a local studio, Dennis was undoubtedly disappointed by his Saturday night concert, as only 500 people showed.
Let's make Brooklyn party tonight. The Lord got a hold on me. Oh, Lord got a hold on me. Oh, Lord got a hold on me.
One of the reasons the Fun Splash did so poorly was probably because it was held at Roy Thompson Hall. Not really a suitable venue for this type of concert. As well, ticket prices were up to $18, a bit steep for most reggae fans. If you love old movies, you'll probably love the music of Taco, a debonair young man who's charming the rock charts.
If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits? Putting on the Ritz. Different types who wear a day coat, pants with stripes and cutaway coat, perfect fits. Putting on the Ritz.
28-year-old Taco was born in Indonesia and traveled around the world before settling in Germany. It was there that his theatrical career took off, but it wasn't until he decided to combine classic swing with techno-pop that he skyrocketed to international stardom. Taco's Putting on the Ritz has taken the pop and rock charts by storm, turning a whole new generation onto the music of days gone by.
It's so funny. I've had, even small kids come up to me and say, "Hey, that's a great title you wrote." I said, "Thank Irving Berlin, dear." He did 1929.
How do you think Irving Berlin would react if you ever heard Putting on the Ritz?
I know my company's working on getting us together. And this, of course, would be the epitome of my career. That would be really something great. He turned 95 this year. And, I find it really fascinating that, he's alive and his music is being in all the charts all around the world.
Yeah, really. And he's still getting royalties.
Yes, more than I.
I'm singing in the rain. Yeah, singing in the rain.
Besides the old classics, Taco is still very much into his own original music and is working on new songs that he hopes will be as warmly received as the old 30s tunes. Still, he's indebted to the old stuff for making him famous.
Good old melodies will never die out. You get catchy lines and that you can sing along with, and that'll always appeal to people.
Obviously, you've turned a whole new generation of young kids onto this great old music. What about the older people? How are they appreciating it?
They love it. Actually, I've had a lot of fan mail saying, what you did with your music, you've brought our whole family back together again. For the first time, we're listening to the same songs.
Putting on the Ritz. Putting on the Ritz. Putting on the Ritz. Putting on the Ritz.
Taco won't be performing in Toronto for a while. He was strictly here on a promotional tour. His album is entitled Taco After 8. Guess who might become a Toronto TV personality? Good old Maggie T was in Toronto last week shooting a TV commercial for Donini Wine. Right after the shoot, she headed off for a meeting with a certain local TV bigwig. It had something to do with auditioning for a Toronto TV show. Maggie would host it. After all, she's beautiful. National Lampoon's latest celluloid offering is called Vacation, and while it's not been getting rave reviews, Chevy Chase fans should have fun with it.
Dad, I haven't seen a car for an hour.
Oh, shut up, Audrey. You don't think Dad knows where he's going?
Thank you, Russ.
You're lost.
Ma, I saw some detour signs.
I didn't see any.
I saw them when you and Mom were trying to fold the map.
Audrey, when they close the road, they put up big signs, like this one.
It's a timely movie, all right, all about a middle American family chugging their way across the country. And whatever could possibly go wrong does. Old Dad even manages to blow it with a gorgeous character played by Christy Brinkley, making her movie debut.
Sandwich is all wet.
Yeah, they're all wet, but... Oh, God. The dog went on the picnic basket.
National Lampoon's Vacation is currently playing at various cinemas around town. Now, if theater's more your style, you might want to catch Joe Egg. That's a funny yet honest play about a couple faced with the reality of life with a handicapped child. Philip Craig and Wendy Thatcher star.
What's that?
Where?
On your face.
What?
Near your eye.
What is it?
A black thing.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
A spider.
Shall I touch it?
A great black... Get it off!
Oh!
Knock it off! Oh!
I confiscated it from Terry Hodges.
Vicious pig.
He is for 13.
You, I mean.
In religious instruction.
It's not funny.
What I told him. Oh, sweetheart.
Get away.
Oh, look.
Oh, why do you do it, Brian? Honestly, you know that would upset me the first thing you do.
I'm sorry, love.
I even kissed you.
Sorry.
Joe Egg continues on at the St. Lawrence Center through till August 20th.
How I've been thinking of you.
At the top of entertainment, I mentioned that Caravana wraps up tonight. Actually, at this very moment, Caravana festivities are going on right across the street from City TV. Our live eye cameras are out there for the final Calypso concert. Gord, have you ever been down to the islands?
Yes, I have. Many, many times.
Well, you have got to just hop over there across Queen Street because it feels like you're right there.
Well, I was out there for a while tonight, and when I came back to the station, I could hear all the music, and there are people all over the place looking like they're really enjoying themselves.
Really? It's just like a tiny bit of Jamaica or something out there. It's wonderful. It's not going to be going on for very much longer, though. So
just thinking.
Another
what
half
do we know?
hour or so.
Yeah, well, maybe it'd still be going on when we leave. I'll go over there and catch you.
Okay, save a dance for me.
Will do. After this, Jeff Ansell looks at Baha'i fear of mass murder in Iran.
Given your full name, etc., what is it that you're concerned about?
There are growing claims tonight of religious persecution of Iranian members of the Baha'i faith. It's a religion begun some 140 years ago in Persia and is described as being universal. Jeff Ansell says Toronto Baha'is want us to know what is happening in Iran.
In Iran, the Baha'is are under pressure to deny their religion.
This 40-year-old Iranian-born Baha'i, whom we'll call Ramin, has asked that his face and real name be concealed to protect his friends and family still in Iran.
I have great many friends still living there. I have great many people whom I love. The current regime don't have mercy on anyone if they find any track, any piece of information on anyone without any trial or without any asking questions. They will just either put in prison or kidnap or kill.
Ramin escaped Iran 3 years ago and is now one of Metro's estimated 1,200 Baha'i members. There are 20,000 nationwide. In Iran, home to 300,000 Baha'is, 156 of them have been hanged or shot since the revolution, including this couple murdered just last month.
Well, the Muslim clergy have decided that there is no possibility of any religion being born after Islam, after the faith of Muhammad, and they object very strongly to many of the social teachings of the faith.
Among the social teachings, universal education and equality between men and women.
They have destroyed and desecrated and bulldozed cemeteries in Iran so that now the Baha'is have no place to bury their dead. Cool. Children have been systematically expelled from the schools as unclean infidels. This is the charge that they lay against the Baha'is, that they're infidels.
A great deal of propaganda is in this country for the Baha'is, and it is all based on the fact that Baha'is are persecuted because of their Baha'ism. This is not correct.
Iran's UN ambassador tells me Baha'is have been killed because of their political activities. Have there been any members of the Baha'i faith killed in your country, sir?
Yes, I don't know the number. I think I'm sure that some of them have been killed. I think between 100 and 120.
Are the Baha'is being persecuted because of their faith?
No, not really.
Not really? What does not really mean?
If we wanted to persecute Baha'is for their faith, then we should have persecuted all of them.
The Baha'is, first of all, don't interfere with politics. They're loyal to the government.
Words now from the founder of the Baha'i faith. Regard not one another as strangers. The peoples of the world, of whatever race or religion, derive their inspiration from one heavenly source and are the subjects of one God.
It's not a faith. Our point of view, it is not a faith.
Many Canadians probably feel a great deal of pain about what's going on in Iran, and if they wish to express that outrage, they should write to their MPs or the Minister of External Affairs and express that.
Jeff Ansell, CityPulse Tonight.
What is the nature, the core of the Baha'i religion? What is the nut of their faith?
They believe in the oneness of mankind, Gord. Mm-hmm. They worship God, one God, and they also in their religion accept Jesus, Moses, and Muhammad and Buddha as prophets. Mm-hmm. So they believe that their faith represents all peoples, and they've suffered greatly for their beliefs.
Would it be safe to say that it's not only Baha'is who are being persecuted in Iran, it could be anybody who is not Islamic in religious belief, is that right?
That's true, but the Baha'is make up the largest minority in Iran. There are 300,000 of them in that country, and they're singled out because they're so visible.
How long has the persecution been going on?
The religion is about 140 years old. It covers 6 generations, and it just didn't start with the Ayatollah Khomeini court. They had persecution under the Shah as well.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Coming up, City Pulse Sports after this.
He's bad today, and I've got all the painful details in 2 minutes.
The Indians did it again.
Hey, listen, I'll tell you something. The Blue Jays have 61 games left in their 1983 schedule, and if they play those 61 games like they played yesterday and today, we'll have to send out search warrants for Doug Ault and Bill Singer. Boy, it was a lost cause down at the stadium today. Andre Thornton singles off Doyle Alexander. Toby Harris scores 1-0 for the Indians. Indians led 2-0 in the fourth, and Jim Essien doubled home Gorman Thomas to make it 3 for the bad guys, 0 for the good guys. I knew Collins would pick that one up eventually. Then Mike Hargrove doubled in 2 more runs, and now it was 5-0, and Doyle Alexander was on his way to being 0-5. One bright spot, perhaps, in the afternoon, another fine defensive play by Dave Collins in left field. Gorman Thomas, who's just been batting abominably lately, Looks like he had a hit, but Collins made a great save. It didn't do us much good. We only got 3 hits off Len Barker. Alfredo Griffin breaking the no-hit bid in the 6th inning, 6-0 for Cleveland. In the other day game today, Milwaukee beat Boston 6-2 to move within 1/2 game of the 4th-place Jays. In Detroit, the Tigers defeated Kansas City 3-2. That's not good news. First-place Baltimore had the night off. And in Chicago tonight, the Yankees were trying to get closer to first place, but Greg Lazinski hit a home run for Chicago in the first. That one hit the roof of that stadium there. Then in the 3rd inning, it was Lazinski again turning the fans on, and Chicago has defeated the Yankees 4-1, 2 homers by Greg Lazinski. Earlier in this newscast, you were advised of the fairly desperate financial situation surrounding the Canada 1. The irony of this whole thing is that should Canada qualify for the semifinals, which start this weekend, and it's eminently probable they will, the expense of lasting through the semis would cause the whole project to go totally bankrupt unless they get some more bread. Let's look at the standings right now. You'll see Canada right there in the middle. Australia, too, has been virtually unbeatable, 33-3. Azura, the Italian yacht, with some recent victories, is now in 2nd, 20-16. The points on the right side are the crucial information here. Victory 83 has 10.44, Canada 9.72. Then challenge. France in advance were actually excused today because their records are so bad. And bike racing in North America is really starting to take off. That was obvious today at Queen's Park as the Carling O'Keefe Bicycle Grand Prix was contested. And before the professional races, the media races, Jim McKinney and myself, representing the 1 and 1A entry from City Television, we went off at prohibitively low odds. And from the very start, you can see we spurted out to the front. On the extreme outside, you'll see Vicky Bassett from the Sun. We were running 1, 2, 3 for a while. McKinney, of course, those famous hockey legs, doing them very well in this 1.4-kilometer race around Queen's Park. And as we came into the stretch, up on the outside, it's McKinney with the lead. Bassett is challenging, but it's McKinney opening up by several lengths. McKinney won this. Vicky Bassett came 2nd. I wobbled in 6th, but part of that was because of my team effort.
I thought that was great strategy. I set the early pace, and I had to give way, but that allowed you to draft.
Very good move on Miss Bassett, too. I had a tough time with her all the way through. Luckily, Pete just knocked her off a touch at the start, and I just took over from there.
Those Bassets are tough.
They are. There are real good bloodlines there.
Then they had a professional race. Some of the better bicyclists in the world in this sprint, and included among this large group of professional bike racers was Jocelyn Lovell of the Blue Cycle Club. And watch Lovell here. He's got the lead. He's going to be challenged on the outside by Gene Samuels. They are really gutting it out down to the finish line. Lovell won it by the width of his bicycle tire. Mike McCluskey won the 60-kilometer race today. And another month came to an end yesterday, and I'll bet you know what that means. Yes, it means it is now time for the Jewels of July. Let's start off with National Anthem of the Month, as performed by Blue Jays relief pitcher Roy Lee Jackson. Jackson finished July at 7-1 with perfect pitch. Nice Fire of the Month, California's Bobby Clark, going, gone. How about a look at Splat of the Month? And here's the runner-up Splat of the Month. Headache of the Month. Fortunately, George Bell was not injured here. Runner-up Headache of the Month. All of the one-man gang lands on Mike Davis's head. Second runner-up Headache of the Month. Now that hurts. Reaction of the Month. George Brett learning that his potential game-winning home run was merely the final out of the game. 4 days later, American League President Lee McPhail gave George his tater back. Best sports idea of the month. 4-year-old boys and girls playing lacrosse. Look at these kids go. Worst new sports idea of the month. Sled dog racing on AstroTurf. Celebrity of the month. Howard Cosell covering the Blue Jays for ABC Monday Night Baseball. Pass of the month. Conrad Holloway to Terry Greer. The Argos were undefeated in July. Payoff of the month. On July 20th, Golden Birch, owned by Mark Braganolo, won the 9th at Woodbine, setting up a 6.25 triactor that returned $53,844. And finally, the play of the month. Alfredo Griffin on Monday Night Baseball doing his impression of Rudolph Nureyev. And those were the jewels of July. And that's your sportscast.
Thank you very much. Coming up next, a new way to tackle the problem of runaway bighorn sheep. Frank Burkholzer tells us tonight about a unique problem in the state of Arizona. How do you get bighorn sheep wandered off the range back home? Well, state officials decided the best thing to do is to get them tipsy.
Over the years, bighorn sheep have strayed away from some parts of the desert where they used to live. So now humans are trying to put some of them back where they belong. And the newest technique for that involves good old-fashioned applesauce, which the Arizona Game and Fish Department has discovered is irresistible to bighorn sheep, especially after a few hours in the 100-degree heat, when it acquires a kick more like apple jack than applesauce. Over the weekend, 20 or so bighorns, young ones, the older rams were too clever to fall for the applesauce trick, but the young ones were there, under the suspended net, lapping it up. When the rangers pulled the trigger and the happy hour was over, it was time to move. Volunteers disentangled the sheep from the net after tying their legs securely, sometimes with considerable difficulty, moved them to a boat waiting at the shore of Lake Mead above Hoover Dam. Then everyone had a relaxing spin across the lake. All this in marked contrast to methods used previously. Helicopters chasing the sheep through the hills, sharpshooters knocking them off with tranquilizer darts. No fun at all compared to the new system. A truck covered the final part of the 150-mile journey to the desert north of the Grand Canyon called the Arizona Strip. 6.5 hours after the first shot of applesauce, 22 bighorn sheep were off and running in their new home.
That's the slickest job I've ever seen.
Alive, healthy, and maybe just a little hungover. Frank Burkholzer, NBC News.
The Street Beat report is next. Here's our chief assignment editor, Glenn Cole.
Thank you, Gordon. Still very heavy on the incoming traffic scene, but at least the folks are not playing bumper cars tonight, so maybe we're learning something. And right now, let's learn something about the weather by going live down to Queen Street and weatherman Brian Hill.
Well, we're just sitting out on the edge of the stage here tonight because Caravana is winding down now, but Toronto, we're going to have Caravana-like weather for almost the rest of this week. Sunny skies, a heat wave's coming to hit us. You should love the next couple of days. No rain in sight till about Friday. Now, sports and Peter.
The New York Yankees and Toronto Blue Jays are tied for third in the American League East after action today, and those two teams meet tomorrow at the C&E in a doubleheader, so there should be some exciting action.
That is CityPulse Tonight. For tonight, I will have the next tomorrow evening at 6. Until then, thanks for tuning in. Good night.